So a very good afternoon. My name is Fen from Belbin. We are lucky enough to be here today with Chris Jackson. Chris has worked extensively in the business and leisure sectors using team coaching. And now that's the topic of conversation for today, team coaching. What is it? How can it be used? How does it differ from other things out there in the sector? So Chris, very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Fen. Pleased to be here.
Fantastic. Well, we'll kick right off. And I must say, I thought long and hard about a creative introduction, and I couldn't come up with anything better than what is team coaching and why is it garnering so much recent attention?
Which is a good question. Excuse me. It's probably easier to say what team coaching is not. However, let's take the positive view on this. What is team coaching? And I think the thing about team coaching, it's not a defined thing. It is still very much an emerging practice. There is not a lot of theory that defines team coaching. There's a lot of good new work that's emerging that's examining it, but there isn't any one universally accepted definition of this is team coaching and this is how you do it.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff. Something that really struck me about it was just that, focus on not the theoretical, but more the more practical and the more sort of doing and the learning. So in your experience, how have teams reacted to this sort of style of coaching?
Okay, so using my experience, my introduction to team coaching was via academia. But it wasn't an academic version of delivery. It was using team coaching in the academic environment in order to promote learning. And I found this fascinating. After a lifetime of running businesses and being engaged in business support, the thing that underlies all business progression is the business, the team, the organization, the need to learn. And here was a method that was engaging small teams of people who were there to learn about business in actually learning the process by doing it. It was active, it was real, it was live. So it wasn't a theoretical process. There was no theory of team coaching used. We introduced people to the process of team coaching. And I think this is important. Team coaching is a process. It is not a thing. There is no one right way to deliver it. There are many different ways, and the way in which it's delivered would be dependent on the team in question and also the team coach and their background, their own philosophy. But in general, for me, it's more about facilitating learning, but it's whatever learning the coached team needs for themselves. It's not prescriptive. It's not about me going in as the expert and telling people how to do this, that, and the other. In the context of business, it's not about me going in and being the consultant. It's very much about me going in and engaging with the team, meeting them where they are, and then we would. One of the phrases I like that's used by Peter Hawkins. It's about you explore the learning edge together. So when the coach and the team are on the learning edge together, then there's progress.
Yeah. Wow. I like that differentiation between sort of the structured learning and the process. It's a process. From what you've described, it sounds like psychological safety within the teams you work with would be quite important, given that it is, such an interesting environment. How have you found teams sort of cultivate that sort of safety in order to facilitate the process?
Yeah, psychological safety is paramount, but again, psychological safety is not a defined condition. No. You certainly need a level of psychological safety, but if the coaching environment is too safe, then I would suggest that not a lot's going to happen because people will be too guarded. It would be like having a room full of team workers, Belbin team workers. Not a lot would happen because nobody would want to disagree. At the heart of the team coaching process that I use, there's dialogic intervention. So we learn to use true dialogue as a way of exploring what might be. It's not about sort of adversarial or advocacy interventions. It's about exploring together what might be. Excuse me.
Yeah, okay, and that's probably not a bad segue actually into my next question. You mentioned sort of the Belbin team workers. Where does Belbin and that theory sort of nest with the practice of team coaching?
Yeah, so again, in my practice, we used Belbin as a model, if you like, as a model which gave learners or gave people in business understanding that we are all basically wired differently, and it's quite liberating to be able to talk to people and say, you know, this is not a psychometric test. This is about how we behave. It's about how you show up for work on the day. And in doing that, it's what I've found is that Belbin gives you a great starting point for conversations, because there are moments of realization, both for the person who's reading the team roles for the first time or exploring their own team roles. But then as you collectively as a team explore each other's team roles, then right, okay, this is why when I give you this task to do, it just never gets done, or you seem to hate doing it. Now I understand. And you know, that is not using Belbin team roles is not a panacea. It is not the only thing that is going to create a high performing team. It is one of the things that perpetuates this, and I've found in team coaching a great starting point.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, one of many tools in the toolkit that, you know, the teams can sort of tap into at the requisite times. I guess one of the final questions, and might be an interesting one, but what do you find people struggle with or are challenged most by in the realm of team coaching? For some, this would be quite a new way of doing business. So I can imagine that there would be some friction there.
I think there are two challenges with regards to team coaching. One is for someone who is learning to be a team coach, or, you know, emerging as a team coach, and that would be there's an awful lot that we need to unlearn. We're all brought up in an education system predominantly where we are used to being presented with what I would call the sage on the stage. So the expert stands up in front of the pupils, offers the wisdom which is to be remembered, and then it's repeated at the end of the session or the year as a test, and you are evaluated on how much you've remembered. For me, team coaching is more about being the guide on the side. So you're not there to instruct, you're not there to lead, you're not there to tease out, you're simply there to explore together. Now, as with many other processes, a team who are to be coached have got to learn to be team coached. You can't, I would suggest, and certainly in my experience, you can't just wander into a room full of people or engage with an existing team and suddenly team coach them. They've got to understand what the process is all about.
Sure. Yeah. No, that makes sense, given the fact that everyone in a given team that you're working with is going to be so different, and particularly from the last team. So those experiences are very rarely going to be the same by the sounds of things. Well, look, Chris, thank you so much for your time. It certainly answered a lot of my questions I've had. So I really appreciate you going into sort of the depths more on that team coaching side of things. So is there anything else final you'd want to leave, or anything else you feel you need to touch?
Not particularly. What I would say to anybody listening was, you know, as with Belbin team roles, team coaching itself is not a panacea to the world's ills, but it's a really good way of being able to start the powerful conversations that we need to explore exciting possible futures.
Fantastic. And exciting possible futures. What a good way to leave that. Well, Chris, thank you so much for your time, and I wish you all the best.
Absolute pleasure, Fen. Speak soon. Bye.